Baby, I know that all of this ended. Baby, don't feel ashamed or offended. Just you remember the good times we had. Baby, you better forget about the past. Hey, look back in love, darling.
Look Back in Love by Larry J. Dunlap. A 60s tale of love and rock and roll. Family Matters, an excerpt from Chapter 2. Quote, "The heart has reasons that reason doesn't know." Close quotes. Pascal. April 1965, Indianapolis, Indiana. Once my parents heard about Dave's second, more insistent phone call from California, an impromptu family meeting materialized after dinner the next night. My 16-year-old sister Cheryl disappeared to the back bedroom telephone, while my parents and I cleared the captain's table that dominated the kitchen. "So," Dad said, munching on one of Mom's homemade lacy oatmeal cookies. My parents were Irish. Dad's wiry hair was graying. His enormous smile and gift of gab, as he termed it, had made his home office insurance agency successful enough to support us comfortably. "Dave told you they've got this nightclub job out there in California? For sure? Do I have that right? He did say for sure?" I nodded. All significant family events took place around this table crowded into our kitchen. Pat first met my family here. She'd been brought into our family circle here. Mom had listened to Pat's mother tell her daughter was pregnant by me sitting here. We'd played innumerable bridge and board games here. Family and close friends were gathered here, while acquaintances and visitors were relegated to the living room. "And those musicians Dave and Mac found, with them, you'd have enough people to form a new band?" Mom sat in her chair after putting a kettle on. Her red hair had faded a little, but she still had a cute, compact figure, and her Irish was always up and on display. "Yeah, 3 musicians and 3 singers. Counting me." "Mm-hmm." Dad exhaled and looked up from his cookie. "Well, son, how do you feel about this?" I looked at them in confusion. I realized I'd been waiting for them to tell me what to do. I'd let my parents catch me 5 weeks ago when I'd free-fallen back from Fort Wayne, my life in ruins. They'd given me my childhood bedroom back and enough money to get by until I found the assembly line job at the RCA plant. I'd accepted every condition, spoken and unspoken, without equivocation, and tried to do whatever they suggested. A welcome relief, since my own judgment seemed so impaired. Mom got to the heart of the matter. "If this situation turned out to be a golden opportunity, Larry, and you missed it, how would you feel?" With my face in my hands, I muffled out, "I don't know." I looked up into her eyes. "I can't even visualize how this could work out. Their contract is supposed to start real soon, and I'm here. I've got a job. I can't imagine how I would even get there." The hidden truth was, if I'd wanted to go to California, I could have gone with Dave and Mac 2 weeks ago. They'd come by to offer me a last chance to join them in their adventure before heading west to the interstate. After they'd driven away, I'd felt hollowed out. In little more than 3 months, I'd lost my home, my wife and kids, and now, with the 3 guys I'd sung with off to California, my only friends were gone too. Surprisingly, I realized I wasn't as devastated by my friends' departure as I expected. Realistically, the singing group had ended in January when we'd tried to morph ourselves into a full-fledged show band. I'd learned at least one thing from those 4 weeks in Birmingham and St. Louis, and that one fatal night in Fort Wayne. I wasn't cut out to be a performer. I didn't have, seemed incapable of learning really, hip dance moves like Mac. I was deathly afraid of performing publicly. Worst of all, I hated not hearing our voices, drowned out by drums and electronic instruments. Vocalizing those early rock and roll harmonies, immersed in the instant a cappella creation, had been my refuge since high school. I could get chills in those few minutes of being an equal part of something special. I missed singing with the guys, certainly, but I didn't miss being in a band. Dad trotted out one of his homilies. "Well, maybe you're getting the cart before the horse." No sense talking about how to get somewhere unless you want to go, Mom said, and studying me intently. I'm shocked. I just expected a simple, no, Larry, of course you can't go to California, and then that would be the end of it. Mom took a cookie with a wistful little smile before nibbling a tiny bite. The kettle started a low-pitched whistle. You're worrying me a little, son, Dad said. I always thought I'd like to see some of that cocksure attitude knocked out of you. Now I'm not so certain. But I've been trying to please you guys. Larry, Mom said, covering one of my hands with both of hers. What we want is for you to be happy. That's all we've ever wanted. We know you've been trying to please us, but this isn't really you. All your life you've been passionate about one thing or another, flinging yourself into this or that, good, bad, or indifferent. Now you're just drifting. You guys are killing me, I said with some anguish. I thought I was being responsible, accepting maturity, doing the right things. My fingers traced circles on the table. I know, she said, hands retreating. But you're 23 years old and leaving all your decisions up to us. Mom glanced sideways at Dad. And that might not be the best idea. We've tried to do what we thought was best for you and Pat in the last few years, but I'm not sure we've always used the best judgment. We might need to accept some of the responsibility for, well, what's happened. I looked up to see my mother's brow, furrowed in thought, and my father unusually introspective. Neither of them looked at me or at each other. Mom's simple statement lit the fuse to potential emotional dynamite. I'd felt my parents had stood by in tacit and disconnected embarrassment, while Pat and I had been rushed through a wedding followed by distant exile to a Kentucky college. There was no way I could deal with that right now. We waited, the fuse burned out, and the explosive moment passed. Anyway, my mom mused, maybe this experience in California could bring back your joy of living. She rose to pour hot water into her mug and sighed deeply. I don't know, but I don't believe we can stand in the way of that, not even for Pat and the boys. She glanced at me. Have you talked to her since you've gotten back? I shook my head. I hadn't called her, but then she hadn't called me either. If she did and asked me to come home, I doubted I could resist. And I feared stepping back into a trap baited with the most precious people in my life. Pat's love and faith in me had been enough to counterbalance the stinging rebuke and contempt from her family for the last 4 years, especially from her unforgiving mother. Without her, the balancing act was ending. The threatened divorce would slash through the Gordian knot of our problems, but it would also devastate our little family. I couldn't save them by returning to a situation made even worse now, though. Unable to figure out how to avoid the looming disaster, I'd taken the coward's way out and done nothing. Mom's dismay was written all over her face. Well, we won't interfere. We've done enough of that, and look where it's gotten us. Maybe there's a way to ensure this offer is genuine at least, and solve the problem of getting you to California, Dad said. He dusted cookie crumbs from his lips with the back of his hand. Your mother and I think you should ask Dave to send you airfare to San Francisco. First-class airfare, Larry, Mom said. First class. Then you'll know if the offer is substantial. She sipped tea and peered at me over the mug. But they won't be able to do that. Well, son, Dad said, reaching for another cookie, then your decision will be easy. You won't be going to California.